Let's make for you today the OG paella. Come on, let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome or welcome back. I'm Chef Patrick, and today we're going to be making one of Spain's favorite dishes, paella. But not just any paella, we're doing the OG, original paella, Paella Valenciana. Now, although paella probably has ancient roots, the more modern day paella can be attributed to the city of Valencia. Okay, so traditionally, in Paella Valenciana, chicken is used, usually the dark meat, whether it's thigh or legs or both. But then the other meat would be a rabbit. But since rabbit is not readily available, people would substitute pork ribs. Paella Valenciana also includes snails, but we're going to omit that. So today we're just using chicken thighs and pork ribs. These chicken thighs are a little bit bigger than I wanted, so I'm simply just going to cut it in half, and I'm just going to take a meat cleaver and just cut that thigh in half. And so here we have our chicken and our pork ribs, so that's ready to go. Now there are a couple things that make paella paella. One of the most important components is the rice. Today I'll be using Bomba rice. This rice is what they call a round rice. It's not really even short grain, it's more round than your typical rice. This rice has a lot of starch, but if you can't find Bomba rice, then you can always substitute arboreal rice. Another important item is saffron. Saffron are these little tiny thin threads, and they give the most unique color and fragrance to any dish. And this is really a significant part of traditional paella. However, if you don't have saffron, if you can't find it, then you can use turmeric, which will give it that color. However, in traditional paella, you would use saffron. Another key component in traditional paella is the paella pan, which you can find on Amazon. I'll leave the link below in the description. If you don't have a paella pan, simply use a large flat bottom pan, or I even like to use a cast iron pan. Okay, so I have my paella pan ready to go on the heat. I want to add some good olive oil to the pan. Now, traditionally, I would season the meat beforehand, but in paella making, they add the salt to the pan. So that's what we're going to do here. Then we're going to add our chicken pieces. We're going to add our pork pieces, our pork ribs. I'm going to add some green beans. These are frozen, but you can definitely use fresh. Okay, now we're adding some butter beans. They would use a bean called garrafón, which is kind of like a lima bean, but I think that the butter bean is a good replacement or substitute. Okay, now I'm going to push that to the side, making a pocket, a hole. Because now we're going to add about a tablespoon of sweet paprika, Spanish paprika. I'm simply going to fry that in the pan. We're also adding the saffron threads right to the pan. I'm going to use about a cup, half a cup of good canned crushed tomatoes. And I'm going to mix that with the saffron and the paprika. Then I'm going to start incorporating everything else, spreading that around. Okay, now we're going to add 4 cups of water to the pan. Whenever you're doing paella, you simply want to think about it as a 2.5 or 3-to-1 ratio of liquid to rice. So if you have 1 cup of rice, you basically want to do 2.5 to 3 cups of liquid. Okay, so our stock has been cooking for about 20 minutes. You can see where the stock has reduced. And so I'm just going to take more liquid to bring it back to where it was. And what I like to do is I like to add chicken stock because I've already added my flavor. I tasted it and I adjusted the seasoning with salt, and it's perfect right where it is right now. If I add water to it, it's going to kill the flavor that I worked so hard to get. But if I add chicken stock, then I keep that flavor. And so basically I'm going to add the chicken stock right back to that line where I originally started from. Now we're just going to bring this to a boil, then add our rice. Now we're going to add our Bomba rice. I'm adding 2 cups of the Bomba rice. So if we're using a 3-to-1 ratio, that means I used a total of 6 cups of liquid. Before you added the rice, make sure that you season the stock well so that your stock tastes good, so that in the end, your rice is going to taste good. And then last but not least, we're going to add a couple sprigs of rosemary, and we're simply just going to nestle them down, and that's going to give that distinct flavor. Now we're going to cook this for about another 20 minutes until that rice has soaked up all that liquid. Okay, so that stock is being absorbed by that rice. We're going to let it go for a few more minutes, and you're going to hear the sound of like crackling, and that's when you know it's time to develop that socarrat. Socarrat is the bottom crusty layer of the paella, where it begins to, all those juices, all those flavors begin to caramelize on the bottom of the pan, and the rice begins to get crispy. And that is probably the best part of the paella, so we definitely want to develop that. Okay, if you listen closely, you can hear the rice starting to crackle, and now is the time I want to raise up the heat a little bit, and we want to start to develop that socarrat. Okay, I turned off the heat because I developed that socarrat, and I can tell when I put my spoon, I can feel that crust underneath. And so now I'm just going to place a lid on top for about 5 minutes, and then we'll be able to serve. Check this out. Oh, mama. Let's get a little serving here. Getting that socarrat. See that on the bottom? That's that goodness. Oh, mama. Let's give it a try. It's so much flavor. You got the flavor that comes out of that chicken and that pork rib. You have the saffron, you have rosemary permeating that rice. The rice is perfectly done. That socarrat caramelized flavor. If you've ever been nervous about making paella, please don't be. Make it at home today.
Thanks for watching. If you really like this video, don't forget to like and share, and hit that subscribe button along with the notification bell so you can stay up to date on all new content. And remember, food can look good, but if it doesn't taste good, then your cooking is in vain, so make it sabroso.